Swadee Krap. In today's program, the fallout from the weekend's protests and the violence that followed, the latest from Samut Prakan, the cluster next door to Bangkok, and a windfall for a couple in Nakhon Si Thammarat digging around their backyard. But first, let's have a talk about where we're doing our program from today. This is one of the major intersections in Patong. 3 roads intersect and it's usually very busy at any time of the day with cars banked up waiting to get around. Not at the moment though. Patong's very quiet, and whilst it's quiet there are some hotels open and there are some restaurants open, but certainly nothing like the past. And well, I think I can safely say that most restaurants and businesses are closed at the moment in Patong, but there are still some open and braving the circumstances. Our lifesavers here are doing the right thing. They're on duty, but they're mostly enjoying their Facebook pages at the moment because there's not a lot to do. You've pretty much got 3 kilometres of Patong beach to yourself at the moment. So if you are heading to Phuket, if you're able to get to Thailand at the moment, you're certainly going to see the whole place like you will probably never see it again. So we can urge people and ask them if they do have an opportunity to move from where they are at the moment, come to Thailand. The government's doing their best to reduce the quarantine times and reduce restrictions, and you'll see that continue up until October this year when they say things should be back to normal. Let's see. But for now, let's check today's main news stories. Samut Prakan is emerging as Thailand's latest COVID hotspot after a new cluster of infections was detected among the province's migrant workers last week. 584 people are now under supervision after 17 migrant workers tested positive yesterday. The source of the latest cluster, just south and east of Bangkok Central, was a 29-year-old Burmese migrant worker who was tested just over a week ago. The Department of Disease Control have since moved in and started track and trace testing, citing the worker camps and construction sites as the source of the spread. Thailand added 73 new infections in today's announcement, 66 of them locally transmitted. Total number of reported infections is now 27,876. One more death was reported, taking the total toll to 91 people. The Metropolitan Police Bureau has defended the response from police amid strong opposition to the actions taken against protesters in Bangkok on Saturday evening. Scuffles between police and pro-democracy activists left at least 33 people injured, including 13 police officers and 3 journalists. A news reporter from Channel 8 was injured after being struck by a rubber bullet. Police arrested at least 20 people on various charges, from violating a ban on mass gatherings to alleged lèse majesté offences. A spokesperson for the police says the use of riot control equipment such as rubber bullets, tear gas, the high-powered water cannons and batons was in line with international guidelines. Police say they were forced to deploy the tear gas after having Molotov cocktails thrown at them by protesters. There were numerous media outlets and private citizens who live-streamed the events of the evening, in many cases showing the police hitting protesters on the ground, chasing down individuals, and protesters abandoning their motorbikes and running from the scene. But the police and the protesters have both maintained that the other side started the violence. Protesters also lit fires along the public roads, uprooted potted plants and defaced public murals of the current Thai monarch and the royal family. There are full stories about the day's events and some full videos on our website, thetiger.com. The extent of the violence and the injury of Thai journalists covering the event has caused 6 journalist peak organisations to issue a statement today, calling on all sides in the current political conflict to show restraint. The joint statement comes from the National Press Council, the Thai Journalist Association, the Thai Broadcast Journalist Association, the Online News Providers Association, the News Broadcast Council of Thailand, and the National Union of Journalists Thailand. The 6 organisations state that they oppose any form of violence, while stating that under democratic system, people have the right to peacefully protest without being confronted with weapons or the use of force. The statement calls on officials to clearly inform protesters and media representatives in advance of the action they're about to take to disperse protests so that the violence can be avoided. The statement also calls on media organisations to follow the guidelines for working in such situations in order to avoid being injured or killed or having their equipment or vehicles damaged. They urge media agencies to guarantee the safety of staff members and to ensure they have adequate protective gear. They also say reporters at protests should adopt armbands that clearly show they're from the media, while still assessing whether or not it's safe to attend such rallies. Meanwhile, today the Thai PM Prayut Chan-o-cha is chairing a meeting of the National Security Council to discuss the matters of the weekend violence. The Rama 7 Institute is calling for a dialogue between the opposing groups, urging the Reconciliation Committee to focus more on talks instead of carrying out studies and filing reports. The Reconciliation Committee is an initiative created by the government late last year, but activists and government critics have refused to take part, saying the committee is merely smoke and mirrors to keep the current administration in power. Pro-democracy activists are calling on monarchy and government reform, along with a rewrite of the 2017 military-backed constitution. While Thai seem to be split on the issues around government and monarchy reform, a recent poll found that most Thais do want a new constitution. Since the 1932 revolution ended nearly 800 years of absolute monarchy and transitioned to a constitutional monarchy, there have been 20 constitutions and charters in Thailand, most adopted after military coups. The current constitution, ratified in April 2017, was drafted by the military-backed NCPO, which seized power in the 2014 coup. In the NIDA poll called "Do People Wish to Have a New Constitution?", 1,300 Thai adults from various regions of Thailand were interviewed. 58.5% of them said they want a new constitution, while 25.1% that they do not want a new constitution. 6.5% said they would not vote on any referendum on the matter. A 46-year-old in Nakhon Si Thammarat has had a lucky day after digging 100,000 baht hidden in the backyard of his house by the previous owner. Most of the money was in plastic bags and in good condition. Most of the bills were 500 baht bills, and there was at least 50,000 baht just in that denomination alone. All the bags of money were packed into a plastic box and buried underground, but the plastic box had already been damaged when it was found. The 43-year-old backhoe driver was to dig up the land in preparation for a new noodle shop. As he was digging, he uncovered the box that was buried 20 centimetres underground with bricks placed on top. The land's previous owner had died 5 years before, but his daughter has now been contacted about the windfall. Wonder what's going to happen there. Heading around other parts of Thailand today for the air check and the temperatures. We've got Bangkok with very unhealthy air today. 135 is the reading. Should be much the same tomorrow, even worse this Wednesday. We've got temperatures around 36 and 37 over the next 2 days. Down here in Phuket, we've got, well, moderately bad air today. Probably a bit worse than it has been, but it will be better in the next few days. Temperatures around 30 and 29. Plenty of sunshine, but it is overcast. And let me tell you, it's humid. Nakhon Ratchasima up in Thailand's northeast, a little bit better than it has been. The reading 110 today, much the same over the next 2 days. It has been in the red before. We've got temperatures of around 33 and 35 over the next 2 days. Few clouds, but sunny by Wednesday. Chiang Mai reading of 132 today, considered unhealthy for sensitive people. The next 2 days will be much the same. Temperatures of 35 and 37, a bit better than the 40 we had on Friday, and you've got some sunshine by Wednesday. The central Gulf of Thailand coast, we've got moderate air there today. The conditions over the next few days will be a little bit worse. The temperature 30 and 32 with some cloud around. And in Pattaya today, we've got fairly poor air quality. Be much the same for Tuesday and Wednesday, temperatures of 32 and 34, and you've got some cloud around there as well. Well, that's our news coming to you from Patong today. As I said earlier, it's quiet, but there are people here, and certainly you sort of get a sense that they are gearing up somehow in the background for what may open up later this year. The government says October, but we've got a few more months to get to before we actually see if that's going to happen. We will bring you up to date with all the latest news about any confirmed openings, new visas, new quarantine measures. All, of course, on the Thaiger. Make sure you subscribe. You might even like to become a member of the Thaiger. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next time.